Hey guys, how's it going? We're back with another video, and we're going to talk about Jaguars again, specifically the new Jaguars from Fender. Now, we talked about this a couple weeks ago. I got a lot of feedback from a lot of people. It was a very charged conversation, very opinionated on both sides of this issue. And we're talking about it again today, because I made a comment in the last video. We were talking about the Player 2 Jaguar and its many failings. And I said something to the effect of, if Squier decided to make an Affinity version of the Jaguar, it would literally be this. It would be a Jaguar with a three-way switch and with the stupid placement of the vibrato system, and it would just be a train wreck, haha. Well, little did I know, an Affinity Jaguar was unveiled very, very quietly. There wasn't a lot of marketing. I didn't even know this existed, honestly. Found out it does in fact exist. It's new. It's at a low price point. So I looked at it, and at first I was excited, and then I got very angry about it. So let's talk about it today. All right. So let's start with a brief recap of what we talked about last time. So I'm going to resize myself here. Okay. So here's the Player 2 Jaguar. Okay. We talked about this at length last time. I'm looking in the wrong direction because I've actually got my windows in a different place. So let's move them. There. All right, now I'm looking the correct direction. So here it is. This is the Player 2 Jaguar. And I had a lot of things to say about this last time. I'm going to give you the brief version. So the vibrato system is hilariously close to the bridge. It's not correct. It's got a three-way switch. There's no rhythm and lead circuit. It doesn't have like a separate set of controls for volume and tone for the rhythm circuit like a Jaguar should have. It's missing that flash and bang, and it doesn't have the chrome covers or anything like that. Um, but they did at least get the headstock right. They've got Jaguar as it should be instead of that tiny little font that we got before. And we've got the classic gear tuners. Okay. And my basic conclusion last time was this is not a Jaguar really, because a Jaguar has a rhythm and lead circuit. It has a tailpiece in a very specific place. This one fails in both of those ways, therefore it's not really a Jaguar. To give you a parallel, a Stratocaster is a Stratocaster generally because it has either 3 single coils or 2 single coils with a humbucker, a 5-way switch, a volume, and 2 tone knobs. That's what makes it a Strat. So that'd be like if they tried to sell a Strat that only had, I don't know, 1 single coil and no switch and a volume knob. Something like that. That a Strat is what it is for that reason, right? Same with a Telecaster. You got your single coil, both of them, or you have a single coil and a humbucker with a 3-way switch, 1 volume, 1 tone. That makes it a Telecaster. That'd be like if they tried to sell something as a Telecaster, but they moved the bridge way up and they took one of the pickups away. It's not really a Telecaster. So it can be done. It can be done at lower price points. Fender did not do this here. $829.99 for this guitar is a joke because it's not really a Jaguar. And my sentiment at the time when I made that last video was, if Fender made a Squier Affinity Jaguar, it would be this. It would be cut every corner you can. It would be put the vibrato system in a weird place. It would be make it a 3-way switch with no rhythm and lead circuit. And it basically is a Squier that they're charging you $830 for. Well, here it is. This is the Affinity Series Jaguar. And was I right or was I right? At first glance, I was excited about this. I thought, oh, $299? And it's a Jaguar. 2 single coils. It doesn't have the rhythm and lead circuit, but it's a Squier. It's an Affinity Squier. Who cares? I thought, it's pretty much, I nailed it, right? Then I noticed a couple things. There's one glaringly obvious thing about this, between this and the player. I'm going to shift between them two, both of them quickly. You will literally see on your screen. You will see what I'm talking about. Ready? There we go. Notice anything? Look at this tailpiece. They put the tailpiece in the right place on the Affinity Squier, but they put it in the wrong place on the Fender. What the hell were they thinking? Not to mention the old one, which is right here. Old one was in the right place. The old one was in the right place. Look at the distance there. Okay? New one, stupid and short. Affinity, correct place. So my first impression was, oh man, they knocked it out of the park. This is going to be, it's an affordable Jaguar for everybody. Great. Let's look at it a little closer. So it uses the Mustang bridge, but that's okay. It's a Squier. It uses a three-way switch. That's okay. It's a Squier. But then I noticed something that makes this an unforgivable, stupid guitar. This is an Affinity, okay? Let's talk about Squier hierarchy for a second, okay? The very bottom tier is the Bullet or Sonic, which I guess now there's the Debut, but that's only the Strat. So Bullet or Sonic, what is that? It is the guitar you know, the Strat or the Telecaster or whatever, but it's as slimmed down as it could possibly get, okay? And then you also have the Mustang as well. And then from there you have the Affinity. And what's the Affinity? Well, now the Affinity is, for example, an Affinity Strat is a full thickness body. Usually it's a 2-point trim, sometimes a 6-screw trim on a Strat. It's basically made to the spec of a Mexican Stratocaster, but it's a Squier, so it's Affinity. And it doesn't have all the fancy stuff, like it doesn't have the gloss on the neck, and it doesn't have, a lot of the fancier trimmings that you might get. Same with the Telecaster. It's going to be an Affinity Telecaster. It's going to be standard thickness. It's basically made to the spec of a Mexican with lesser wood. It might be a little bit lighter, and it's not going to have any of the fancy stuff like the fancy back of the neck polish or whatever, right? That's what Affinity is. Then you have Classic Vibe. Classic Vibe is basically everything about it is almost identical to a Mexican spec or a vintage spec Fender, but it's a Squier. Okay? That's the hierarchy of Squier, basically, today. So this is an Affinity. Keep that in mind. And when I noticed this, I got very mad because this also is not a Jaguar. You know why? Do you see it yet? It is using Stratocaster single coil pickups. So they were able to route out the body for a Jaguar vibrato system in the right place. If you look at the headstock, they did it. They put the Jaguar script on there. That's great. Headstock looks good. They changed the bridge to a Mustang bridge. That's okay, whatever. But the pickups are Stratocaster pickups. Why? The Jaguar pickups couldn't cost that much more than Strat pickups. I don't understand this decision. Once again, this is not a Jaguar. This is closer to a Mustang than a Jaguar at this point. I can't believe it, honestly. Oh, dude, but it's only $299. Here's the thing. People were saying that about the Player 2. It's not meant to be vintage spec. If you want vintage spec, get a Vintera. Here's the problem. Fender themselves set the precedent, okay? When you name something, it's supposed to contain the things that make it what it's called, right? That'd be like if there was a Mustang sedan or a Mustang hatchback. Oh, wait. Ford did that, didn't they? And it was terribly received. And they're still sitting on the lot today. Because it's not a Mustang. The Mach-E is what I'm talking about. It's not a Mustang. And you're not fooling anybody. The customers don't want it. Because it's not a Mustang. Because it doesn't have the things that make a Mustang what it is. Which at the very least is a sports coupe vehicle. At bare minimum. So Fender has done this now with a guitar, again, with the Jaguar, again. And I can only imagine, there's only one reason that they did this. It wasn't cost. It was to artificially inflate the price of getting a correct Jaguar. Which, the reason this is a sticking point for me is, they don't do this with any other products that they have, really. Telecaster, you want a Tele? Even the Sonic Tele is still pretty much a Tele. A Sonic Strat or a Debut Strat is still pretty much a Strat. This isn't pretty much a Jaguar. Neither is the Player 2, which we already talked about. But That's not pretty much a Jaguar either, for the multiple reasons we talked about in the last video. But this is an embarrassment. If they were going to do this, this should have been a Bullet, in my opinion, or it's called Sonic now. I don't understand how they can get away with doing this. I'm not talking from a legal standpoint. I mean from like a reputation standpoint. This is a slap in the face to people like me, where the Jaguar is my very favorite. I would have considered buying this if it had the correct pickups, honestly. Well, just buy the new pickups and buy a new pick guard. I'm not going to do that, man. And the people that this is marketed toward aren't going to do that either. So they're going to get this idea of what a Jaguar is, and it's really not. With these pickups, it's really not. If you've ever listened to Jaguar pickups, they're not the same as Strat pickups. They're not even close. That would be like if Gibson or Epiphone released a Les Paul and called it a Les Paul, but had single coil pickups in it, right? They made a guitar like that, but it's called what, the SL or the SE or something. They added a tag to the end of it to let you know it's not really a Les Paul because it has single coils. They didn't do this with the Jag, the Affinity Jag. They didn't do this with the Player 2 Jag either. That argument doesn't work. Well, if you want vintage spec, no. You know why it doesn't work? Right here. This is the classic vibe. I want you to look at it. Take a good look at it. Okay? Let's start with the headstock. It's got the right thing, right? It's got the right script. It's got the classic gear tuners, which is really nice. This is basically a 70s model, which it says it is. Duh. But it's got the block inlays. It has binding on the neck. But look at the body. Okay? Look at that. You've got a properly spaced vibrato system. You have a rhythm and a lead circuit. You have the correct pickups. It doesn't have the correct bridge, but I'm not going to die on that hill. I am in the strong minority on the people who prefer the original Jazzmaster Jaguar bridge, so I won't die on that hill. But look what they've done here. And this is $459. $459. What does this look like to you? That's a 62 right there, 1962. Take a look at that. Rapid change. That is a Jaguar. And this guitar right here on your screen is proof of my argument. This is a vintage spec Jaguar. This is a Jaguar because it has everything. It has the pickups, it has the vibrato system, it has the rhythm and lead circuit, it has the independent volume and tone control for the rhythm circuit, it has the strangle switch, it has the classic gear tuners, it has the right logo. This is a Jaguar. This is more of a Jaguar than the one that costs twice this much from Fender. And this is a perfect example right here of why it is unacceptable. I will let this one right here, this Affinity, slide because this one exists. Okay? But I won't let this one slide, the Player 2. I just won't. This is not acceptable behavior from Fender. I just don't know what else to say about it, really. I was going to buy one of these, seriously. This is a Mystic Metallic brown color. It's pretty cool. But I was going to buy one because I love Jaguars. The other thing that's interesting about this color is it has a maple neck. Isn't that weird? You have your sunburst with, I think it's laurel. Let me see. It doesn't say. Specs. Neck. Neck is maple on the back. Indian laurel. I don't like it, but some people do. Indian laurel or maple. So I thought about buying this one right here because a maple neck Jaguar I thought could be interesting. But then when I saw the pickups, I was just like, no, it's not worth it. You can actually buy a pre-owned Classic Vibe or Vintage Modified Squier for less than the Affinity one costs new. And that is why I think it is a massive failure. Now, when my local shop, who is an authorized Fender dealer, gets some of these in, I'm going to play them. But I know I'm not going to like it. I just don't get it. I don't understand what Fender is doing. You have things that make your models what they are. and then you release things. They've watered down the Jaguar name again because this is three guitars, or two guitars, I should say, two guitars that just kind of spit on the Jaguar name. This one, why is the vibrato system so far forward, and where's the rhythm and lead circuit for $830? You can make it overseas for $459. It does not cost twice as much to make that in the United States. It doesn't. It simply doesn't. Simply doesn't. So, I mean, there are enough apologists out there that this is going to work out for Fender, and Fender is going to be okay with doing this, and they're going to continue to do this because people won't stand up for it. They won't stay away from it. They'll defend Fender for this, and I think it's kind of unwise to do that. We have to stand together and tell these companies we're not okay with this. We're not okay with being dumbed down. I mean, I think part of the reason that they're doing this stuff, like I'll let it go on the Affinity, because the Affinity, you know, that's pretty much marketed for beginners or people who don't have very much money, and that's okay. But this one right here, this is like the intersection of money and laziness and stupidity, honestly, because you got $830 for a guitar. Most people can't afford that. And those who can probably aren't going to spend $830 on this because they could buy a properly spec'd one for that price or less, right? So the only people who will do that are people who can't figure out how to use the switches. These switches here, which it isn't really that hard. It's not that hard to figure these out. You read it once and you know how it works, and then you love it for it. That's what makes it a Jaguar, is having all of those different sounds and having all of those different options in one guitar. That's what makes it what it is. But you look at this one and it's like Fender has decided our customer base is stupid, our customer base is lazy, our customer base doesn't want to learn things, our customer base doesn't care about tradition, our customer base doesn't care about what makes things what they are. Our customer base, we're going to tell them what they want, and we're going to charge them extra for it. And that is not a mentality that I want to support, honestly. So the conclusion to this video is basically this. Don't support this behavior from Fender. I'm not saying not to buy a Fender, because they look at this stuff, right? If they sell 10 times more classic vibes than they do affinities, that's going to tell them something. So if you do buy a Fender, buy a good one. If you do buy a Fender, buy one that meets the expectations and standards that we all need to set as guitarists and as hobbyists, right? So go do that. I'm going to get a lot of anger and hate in the comments, probably. I want to hear it, though. I do. I'm not going to be offended. I want to know what you think. I want to know if you agree with me. I want to know if you disagree with me. I want to know what you think about this Affinity series. How big of a deal is it that a beginner's guitar would require a pickup swap in order to have the proper pickups that it should have? How important is it that a Jaguar doesn't actually really sound like a Jaguar because it doesn't have the right pickups? How important is that, do you think? I want to know. Am I overreacting here? Is $299 fair for what you get in this package right here? And for that matter, is $830 fair for what you get in this package here? And what do we think about the Classic Vibe? Let me know. I'm going to leave links in the description for a Classic Vibe Jaguar because I do think it is the best Jaguar you can buy right now at a reasonable price. So I encourage you to buy that if you want a Jaguar and you don't have a lot of money. Buy this because it's a great guitar. The other two, stay away from them. We got to do something about this, guys. We got to band together on this. So yeah, there you go. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate all of you. Please like and subscribe. Please join the Discord if you haven't already. We talk about guitar, gear, etc., everything in there. It's a very fun time. I've met a lot of good friends in there, and I hope to see you in there soon. Thanks again. Thank you for watching. I appreciate all of you. See you next time, and keep on rocking.